Welcome to Restaurant Catering Smarts, your go-to podcast for restaurateurs looking to better operate and grow their catering profit centers. With every episode, you can count on expert advice, innovative strategies, and tasty tips straight from industry leaders. Our purpose is to help your business thrive. So, let's dig in to another juicy episode.
Hello again. I am Michael Attias, your host of Restaurant Catering Smarts, and today's guest is Allen Beck, Director of Off-Premise and Catering at Costa Vida. With over 15 years of experience in the restaurant and hospitality industry, Allen brings a wealth of knowledge on how to build catering programs that drive growth, enhance guest experience, and streamline operations. His insights into systemization, brand consistency, and customer engagement make him a standout leader in the evolving world of off-premise dining, and we're excited to have him on the show today. But before we get started, let's take a minute to recognize our sponsor, CaterZen Catering Software. They help restaurants turn their catering chaos into calm. Discover why restaurants trust CaterZen to save them time and increase sales. Go to caterzen.com and sign up for a walkthrough of the software. Now let's dive into this episode of Restaurant Catering Smarts. How are you doing today, Allen?
Doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I like to get everybody started off with like a icebreaker question. We'll keep it easy because there's 1,000. The higher the number, the crazier it is. So 1 to 300, give me a number.
Let's go with an even 250 then.
Oh, high end or the low end. Okay. What's the most interesting thing you've ever seen at a museum?
The most interesting thing I've ever seen at a museum. Wow, that's a great question. Right here in Utah, the one that comes to mind is like there's the it's like the dinosaur museum here.
Yeah.
And it has a huge like ancient sea turtle, and like it's like a true. They like dug it up, put all the bones together, and it's like a massive sea turtle. And I'm like that is the most interesting thing I think I've ever seen at a museum.
I can't even think of the most interesting thing that I've seen at a museum. That's pretty cool. How big is it? Big as a bedroom?
It's probably I ballpark it between 15 to 20 feet wide, and then like 20 to 25 feet long. So like you see like sea turtles now, and you're like, oh wow, and it's like just a giant version of that. So
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are those real mountains behind you, or is that like a green screen?
No, that's a green screen. You can see that's my truck right there.
Oh my God.
That's the mountains. That's legitimate.
You know, I'm a big Park City, Utah fan. I know you're not far from there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, can you walk us through your journey in the restaurant industry and what led you to specialize in off-premise and catering at Costa Vida?
Absolutely. It's a eventful and fun story. So when I came over to Costa Vida, I'd come over from the sales world. So I was an account executive, BDR, kind of selling tech for businesses. And I'd done the summer sales thing, went and knocked doors and sold pest control and solar and all that. And I was ready for a change. I was making really good money, but I wasn't really getting into a career. So I came over to Costa Vida. I actually know the CEO very well, Sean Collins. He was an ecclesiastical leader for me growing up. So I called him and said, what do you got going on? And they hired me as an assistant manager in one of our stores here in Utah. And then I kind of worked my way up through, became a general manager and then essentially a district manager in training. And then March 2020 happened. And we saw a need with the pandemic to really how do we move business? I mean, we have, of our 92 locations, 34 of them have drive-throughs. So the 34 that have drive-throughs, they were able to adapt very quickly. But what about the rest of them? What about the other two-thirds of the brand? And so myself and our VP of Innovation and our VP of Ops, we just this three-headed monster came together, and we built it. And I was kind of on the tech side, figuring things out. How do I move POSs outside? How do I run Cat 5 catering through the restaurant, et cetera? And so because of that, then we created the off-premise department. And then I was promoted to the director of the off-premise department 3.5, 4 years ago now, and have grown it since.
It's crazy how people get started in this business, the different paths. Like nobody
Yeah.
ever wakes up and says, I want to work in a restaurant. That's my goal. Maybe I want to be a chef, but nobody says I want to work in a restaurant.
Yep.
You talked about the key drivers of building out, the off premise, but how did the catering, where was there a shift? Was catering always part of the brand? Did it at some point, when you came in, you said, hey, we need to give a little more love to the catering department? How did that all
Yeah,
come together?
catering had always been something that we had done, but never something that we had focused on. And so it's kind of yes to both sides of that question. Like, yes, it was already part of the brand, and yes, we needed to give it some love. And so we'd always had like these specialists for the different franchise groups or whatnot, but we never had one that owned the strategy from an entire brand perspective. And so when I was promoted into the director of off-premise, they also gave me catering. And so not only was it a focus of helping the corporate stores building out their and continuing to have their momentum in it, but then also building out the overall strategy with packaging and offerings and how our go-to-market and whatnot like that. And so we took something that was kind of always helped business. It was kind of like the whipped cream on top of the pie.
Yeah.
And we put some love and some focus and attention to it. And it's grown. It's almost doubled percentage every year in the last 4 years post-pandemic.
That's awesome. Is it a requirement of franchisees to have a catering sales specialist for their group, or is it optional?
It's optional, but we are definitely moving that way, because what we've seen is those groups that do have the sales professional, we call them catering coordinators. Those franchisees that have them also see the biggest increase in catering and have the most opportunity to gain from it.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of brands across the country, and the ones where there is a dedicated person or it's part of the brand, they're so far ahead of everybody. Yeah, you might pick up a couple of orders because you got a sign in the window, but if you really want to juice it up, you've got to have somebody out there, meeting people, sampling, and making it, bread and butter. I know that, and maybe not a lot of people know this, obviously Salt Lake is known as, ground zero for the Mormon church, but me being a student of direct mail, direct marketing, sales, no, it's also ground zero for multi-level marketing outfits.
Yep.
You've got, like you said, I sold pest control. You're, I don't know, I'm assuming you're Mormon, You've got to go out for 2 years. And if you can go sell religion, you probably can sell anything. Where does that play into the success of the brand as far as selling catering?
I think of it this way, right? So yes, to all of that, going out and being able to talk to people about what you believe in is hard. And so if you can, to what you said, if you can sell that or you can talk about that, you can sell anything else, right? Going out and selling pest control after trying to sell religion or talk about religion was significantly easier.
Right.
Because everybody wants pest control, but not everybody wants religion. And so it was a much easier conversation.
It's easier to show cockroaches than salvation.
Yeah, right?
I'm sure.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so I also look at it as like when you're talking about catering and you want to build a business, in my mind, there's no like golden bullet for it. There's no like secret sauce because businesses already have it. Whether I'm selling Cater Zen or I'm selling Toast or I'm selling Olo, these companies have sales reps that are picking up the phone or drumming up business and talking to it. So in my mind, if it's working for $1 billion company like Toast or Olo or Salesforce or HubSpot, why wouldn't it work for a little 92 regional location brand like Costa Vida to go out and sell our catering, right?
For sure. And I've always been a believer if you can take white collar principles and apply them to blue collar industries, you're going to be successful. My first business in college, I had a bartending service. And we just, we knew how to hustle. We knew how to position ourselves. And, most of the guys that had were bartending. They weren't doing anything. They were just there. The same
Mm-hmm.
thing with catering. I did $1 million a year in catering when I sold in '05, and it's because of all my study of sales. I mean, my first sales job was in third grade selling world's finest chocolate covered almonds and basically giving samples at the door, and they either
Yeah.
felt guilty or they loved it. And either way, I made the sale. So
Heck yeah. It's really interesting to me that like what franchisees or I'll have brands in the industry come up and ask me like, hey, where do I start? What do I do? And it's an investment and people get scared about that. But again, like you have name the brand out there, regardless of whether it's in the restaurant industry or just the tech industry, sales reps make the difference. You can't grow a business. I couldn't be Amazon and not go out there and try to drum up business and just hope that organically I grew it into a $1 trillion company. No, he had to grow from somewhere, right? It's the same thing with like Elon Musk. He's grown it in because he's had people, he's out there selling, drumming up business, getting investments, all of that stuff to be able to grow it. Why would it work for those trillion, $billion companies? And why would it not work for me? Like, it's very interesting. I can sit back in my restaurant and hope business comes to me. And I always joke this. I mean, it's kind of religious. If you want hope, go to church. If you want to make a difference, get out there and get on the grind.
yeah, I find it very interesting. And it's like, I know you're very well respected in the community. I see on LinkedIn, I see at the conferences, you're one of the names people talk about. It's like you're giving them the playbook. Like, I'm sure if somebody sat down with you at a conference, you're not going to say, write me a check. You're going to go, hey, you should do this, this, and this. Why do you think people, it's like you're giving them the playbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you feel that there's that barricade between this is what you should do and actually getting up off their butt and doing it?
Because it's not easy. Like, honestly, the generation that we have today, I mean, I remember it. You probably remember it. Growing up, we didn't have this. It wasn't in our pocket. I didn't have the answers at my fingertips. I couldn't do. It was all right there. You had to go out. You had to figure it out. Where we're at in today's society, technology, everything is right there. It's an easy button, right? I mean, we have people making millions of dollars, and all they're doing is they're filming on their phone, and they're
Right.
making content, and they're doing all those things. To go out there and to knock on a door and to talk to somebody at a doctor's office about catering, it's really awkward and it's not easy versus going on to Easy Cater and boosting my percentage in Premier Partnership or whatever
Right.
and giving away more of my business. That's easy.
Yeah. Giving away your whole profit, honestly.
Yeah, that's really easy. And I can turn around and say, well, I brought in 40, 50 new caterings this month, but yeah, your profit's gone versus going out and going to this building right here, knocking on their door, talking about, hey, I'm with Costa Vida. Here's a free chips and queso. Here's these
Yeah.
free samples, just like your almonds, right? That's not easy. That's hard to do. It's awkward. And people don't like having those awkward interactions and feel like they're intruding on people. But that's what makes the difference between you and your competitors, because your competitors may or may not be doing that. And if they're not, that's your competitive edge.
Yeah, and what's crazy is you talk about the investment, and I've told people, I go, okay, you're going to go spend $250,000 on kitchen equipment, all this money on POS. You realize you could spend a fraction of that to get catering up and going, and you could double your profits without another lease, without another employee, and then, but they won't spend the money on that. It's crazy. What do you see, when you see the restaurants that try to get into catering, what are some of the big pitfalls you see out there that they're experiencing or mistakes?
When I talk to several brands and chat with them about things, the biggest one, and it's like the easy button. They want to go build it with tech first. They want to go out there and they want to launch a website, and they want to go and get a catering CRM, and they want to do all of this. They want to go to the point you were just talking about just a moment ago. It's very easy to write a check for the tech than it is to write a check for a person to go out and grow the business. And I think it's a little bit backwards. If you grow the business and you're bringing in that income and you're seeing the fruits of your labors, then it's very easy to write a check for that. Oh, all right, perfect. We're bringing in X number of thousands of dollars a month. Let's go and launch a catering website, and let's get that low-hanging fruit. And now we're bringing in even more. And now let's go and do, get a catering CRM so we can keep track of all these leads that are coming in. And then let's go and get the next iteration. And then let's go and get the next person, and so on and so forth. So many people want to do it kind of like reverse it. Well, I want to have the perfect tech stack, and I want to have everything there so that when I bring someone in, they have all of these cool tools. Well, that's fantastic. I would love to go into that environment.
Right.
However, after you've written the check for all of this cool tech, you're like, what? No, I don't want to write the check for the 40, 50, 60,000 a year salary plus commission for the catering sales rep, because $50,000 tech stack that I got to pay off.
And you know what's
The only way to pay it off is you have a person.
You know what's crazy? Like my first catering sales guy at Corky's, I look at it this way. If I broke even on him year one, right, then I get most of that business back year two, right? And then half of its profit. So I've made even conservatively, I've made a 30 to 50% ROI on that investment moving forward, right? And then he's paid for himself year two, and that's all profit. Well, if I told you, hey, I've got this real estate deal and it's a not lose, and you're going to make a 50% return, everybody would just stumble over themselves to write the check. But they don't see it as like, the bar is very low for a salesperson to pay for themselves if they're out there and they know what they're doing. And I think there's things, I don't know if y'all ever hired people who've sold other places. Do you feel that works, doesn't work?
Yeah, absolutely. That's we look at that. We want to know, what's your background? Have you sold catering before? Have you sold it all before? Well, obviously, we want some kind of background in sales.
Yeah,
because that does help. And if they've sold in the restaurant space, that's even better, but not necessarily a requirement.
Yeah.
But when we have restaurant team members that are like, hey, I want to do that. I want to go out and sell catering. Excellent. We team them up with someone who's already doing it and kind of show them like, hey, we're going to give you like a working interview. And you may go out and do it and be like, hard pass. I don't want to do this. We'd much rather do that than, we're going to have you do this, right? Give you a salary, give you a quota, get you out there, and you're like a week into the job and you're like, this is bullcrap. I don't want to do this. This is hard. This is awkward, and this is not for me. And then now what? Now we've lost a team member, and we've made the investment that's not going to get in as a return.
Okay, you said something so quickly, I need to go backwards. Working interview. Tell me more how that works.
Okay.
That is like, that might be the most valuable thing that I've heard today, because I've never heard it. I mean, I've heard like shadowing or whatever, but tell me more about it.
So we do working interviews with our team members in stores that are aspiring to become a catering coordinator. And so they clock in just like they're at the store, and then they're going to come out with an experienced catering coordinator to go out and experience what does it mean to go out and talk to businesses. This is how we go about it. This is how we're going to approach it. When we land an order, this is how we submit it to our call center, and just walk them through the whole process. And it's like a working interview. And so after a while, after we've done a couple of these, I did it when I did this door to door. We'd go out, I'd show the rookie how to knock on a door, give him the elevator sales pitch, and say, okay, perfect. You're going to do one, and just be very honest. You're going to screw it up, but you need to know like what it's like. You need to be able to talk, and you need to be able to go through it, because this is what the job is. And if you can't do it, that's totally fine. We'd rather figure that out now, rather than, again, writing the investment, giving you a salary, giving you a quota, etc. And then 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the road, you're like, pound sand, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And now we're back to square one. Let's do a couple of those working interviews, go out with an experienced catering coordinator and see if you like it, and see if you can enjoy it, see if you want to do it. And if not, that's totally fine. We put you back in the store, you do your thing, no harm, no foul.
Man, that's incredible. That's very smart. What about catering and labor and the challenges in the market? Are y'all having a lot of labor challenges? How are you dealing with them?
Yeah, so what we've done is we've built the labor right into the profitability of the catering. And so we have our food cost, we have our paper cost, we have our labor cost. And so because we've built it that way, we know that the cold prep is going to do this much for the store and then this much for catering, and that's built into catering. And it definitely helps. So then that way, when it comes to like the profitability and, the whipped cream on top of the pie or the cherry
Right.
on top of the pie, however you want to say it, catering is a true profit for you and a true revenue channel for you and not a burden onto the store. That's why we get very cautious. It's not a shot at Easy Cater or anybody, but when we promote on Easy Cater, we want to be very strategic. How much of that profit margin we're eroding away so that it doesn't become detrimental to the store's operations and P.
That's smart. If I came to you and I said, "Hey, I just started this restaurant a year or two ago. I've got everything dialed in and I want to start catering," where would you go? What are the first 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, you'd recommend to guide somebody?
Very first thing I always ask for is how does your food scale in your restaurant? And be very honest with yourselves. If you're a really good food chain that's like it scales really great to 50 and under, then play in that space and dominate that space. If you can scale it to above 50 people caterings and even to big 200, 300, 400,000, whatever it may be honest with yourself. And then how does your food travel? How does it? You need to answer a lot of the questions. It's very similar to the off-premise question. Order a burrito and let it sit in your office for 25 minutes before you eat it. And is it still good? Right? And if the answer is no, then maybe you don't offer that menu item on DoorDash and on your app, right? It's the same thing with the catering. Before you can go out and make the investment with the person to go out and sell your food, you need to figure out what your menu and how you're going to package it and how it's going to travel first. Because if you go out and make the investment in a person or the tech stack or whatever it may be, and your food doesn't travel well and it doesn't present well in a catering form, then that investment is not, you're a flash in the pan. You've gone out there, you've done it, and it's not going to execute well. I just recently talked with a burger brand, and they said, well, when you have our burger and our fries in our store, they're fantastic. They're really good. And I said, okay, put your fries in a paper bag for 30 minutes and then eat them later, because you have to load them up, put them in the van, drive to the location, unpackage it, set it out, etc. You're probably 30 minutes after you left the store.
Probably realistically an hour.
Yeah. And so how do your fries still taste good? Well, no. Okay. Well, then you need to find the packaging where you can transport and present your fries. Well, they're not just a soggy, potatoey mess, and they still got the crisp, and they still have the seasoning on there, and your burger buns aren't soggy. Once you get that figured out, then let's go out and sell it.
Yeah,
Right?
I've engineered a lot of menus, and I've told people in the burger space, I said, I would recommend doing a build your own burger bar or build your own chicken sandwich bar. At least, the burger is going to be hot and juicy, and then nothing else gets soggy and messed up. But, there's, obviously the space you play in, the Tex-Mex space and barbecue, there's certain things in the South. Fried chicken's always going to, room temperature fried chicken always there's no such thing as bad fried chicken, barbecue. I mean, there's certain things, deli always travels well, and there's some things that, maybe it would travel well, but I don't know that there's a big market for vegan unless you're in a crunchy city. So it's not going to sell in Nashville very well.
No.
When you talk, okay, now we've gone to the point where, it travels well, I can scale well. Where do you guide them to start building sales?
So we know, and this is a hot take, I know a lot of people they think opposite of this. Now that you got your packaging figured out, you got your menu figured out, now it's time to be, in my mind, and I know this is going to ruffle some people's feathers that may listen to this, it's time to be very honest in the verticals that you play well in. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times when I talk to brands in catering, they say yes to everything that comes in. And sometimes it's very, very good for them, and sometimes it's not. I think of a barbecue. You got a nice juicy brisket. You got a little bit of barbecue sauce on there. It's dripping, right? It's kind of messy. May not be the best solution for an elegant wedding reception center. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know.
Right.
But if you realize, like, so for me, I know that I got rice, I got beans. My beans got juices on them. My pork is kind of, it's almost soupy because
Right.
it's got the sweet sauce in there. I'm gonna feel horrible if that bride builds a taco, she goes to bite into
And it
it,
just,
and she spills that pork juice on her white dress, and it's not coming out. I've spilled that juice on my polos before. It don't come out.
right.
And so I'm going to feel embarrassed, and it's going to do worse for my business by trying to fit a square peg into a round hole just to say yes. And so for me, I know Costa Vida, we play very well in the verticals that are like pharmaceutical reps, PTA schools, religious organizations, and areas like that. Even feeding colleges, their sports teams, because the caloric intake and the requirements that they have, we play very well in that space. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to double down my marketing efforts in those verticals rather than a wedding may not be where I play best at. So I'm not going to go to the bridal venues
Right.
where you're buying dresses or the reception centers or things of that nature and promote my business, because I know that that's not something that I can duplicate over and over and over and over again. And plus, brides, they want very specifics. And, my tres leches comes with strawberries, but they want blueberries. So now am I compromising the integrity of my food and my brand to try to make something fit just because I wanted to say yes to that 1,000-person catering and that $10,000 check looks so good on my P&L versus, hey, you know what? I'll take the 25, 50 PTAs,
Right.
pharmaceutical reps, and I'll just do those every single day and make money that way.
Yeah. And I think even if you go do that, the bride calls you, as long as you tell her, look, let me tell you the downside of having us, and then you make a decision, and she might say, I don't care. We love Costa Vida. And
Yeah.
then they made that. And if they decide not to go, then you have credibility, because then they'll remember you. You weren't just trying to sell them a catering package. You were looking out for their best interest. And that,
Yeah.
you can't buy that. You just
No.
can't buy that.
And I wish more brands would be able to, or would be more honest with themselves in that way. Like, if you're just honest with yourself to know where your food performs best at, and then honest with your guests, like, you'll do so good. You'll do so much good in the community and so good for your stores. You'll be amazed at what that no actually turned into.
Yeah, I mean, I know personally, anytime I've sold, I probably undersell, because I don't want somebody coming back and complaining or said, I promised you this, you promised me this, I didn't get this. It's not worth the hassle. It just isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one wants to be under-promised or over-promised and under-delivered,
For sure.
right? Everybody wants to, I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver, surprise and delight, than, yeah, I can do your wedding and I can do that, and I'll bring these special chafing dishes and I'll have these taco holders and all
Yeah.
that, and then I don't show up with that because another store was using them and I didn't have enough inventory to bring it to your wedding, and now you as the bride are pissed because in your mind you thought it was going to look one way
Right.
and now it doesn't, versus, hey, it's going to look like our typical catering. And then if I'm able to work it out with the other store to bring those special chafing dishes and the taco holders and the cute signs and all of that stuff, then the bride's stoked out of her mind.
Right. For sure. Obviously y'all have corporate stores and franchise stores. How do you ensure consistency with franchisees? Because technically they report to you, but they're your partners.
Yeah.
And, it's not the same as an employee where if they're not doing it, you can just go, look, you're on a PIP and now you're out the door, right? It's a little bit more difficult to end a franchise agreement than it is fire someone.
Yeah, you always catch more bees with honey than you do vinegar, right? And so work very closely with them. We have our Costa Vida Advisory Council. We call it our CVAC. And it's our 5 largest franchisees. They meet with all of the leadership at Costa Vida once a quarter. So I have the opportunity to be able to present there and talk about what we're doing, strategy and whatnot. And I use it as a true advisory council. What are your thoughts? How would you guys go about this? What's your feedback here, etc.? And then having their input and their feedback. Then when I go to launch the concept, packaging, offerings, whatever it may be, it becomes very easy because you already have the buy-in of the 5 largest franchisees. And so they're bought into it, they're aware of it, and they're going into it. How do we keep track of consistency and making sure that every franchisee, there's a couple different tools that you use. You can use your back-end tool. We use a company called Synergy Suite, and I can pull a descending dollar report. And in that descending dollar report, it'll say you had $10,000 worth of catering, so you should have used X number thousands of dollars worth of packaging and food, and here's what you actually used. And so it's very easy to say with Synergy Suite, here's $10,000. You should have used $2,000 worth of packaging, but you only used $500 worth of packaging. I guess this is the assumption in me, but maybe it's bad. I don't know. You're probably going to the dollar store or like Restaurant Depot, and you're probably getting packaging that's not our packaging, that's not branded, that's not through an approved vendor. There's no way you could add $10,000 worth of catering. You should have used $2,000 worth of packaging, and you only used $500. Sorry. Quacks like a duck and walks like a duck. Probably is a duck.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And so we use it that way, but then we also, I partner very closely with our franchise business consultants and our corporate district managers, and they do a quality assurance check every quarter in every store. So all 92 stores are visited either by their corporate district manager, or if they're a franchisee, they're visited by their franchise business consultant, and they perform a QA, not only from the food and whatnot, but then also making sure that do they have the right packaging? Do they have the right offerings? If we're not offering enchiladas and they have enchilada set up, that's a concern, right? And then they report back to me on any of those things, and then I work with the director of franchise business, and we figure out how we want to approach and resolve those issues.
Very good. If I don't, let's just say I can't afford a full-time catering salesperson today, what would you do?
You got team members, right? Start there. Have a team member start in your lobby, someone who's social. You already have people coming into your lobby and ordering food. It's very easy to tell the difference between a stay-at-home mom who's, juggling 2 or 3 kids and trying to come up for air versus a businessman or woman that's on their lunch break. And have someone in your lobby start just talking and say, hey, how was your meal? Did everything come out good? Hey, just so you know, we also offer catering. Here's our catering menu. If you ever need a catering, my name's Allen. I'd love to help you out and talk to you. If that's what you can afford, you already have someone in your lobby bussing tables and whatnot, have them start talking to the guests that already love your food and are already in your lobby, and see if you can drum up business that way. And if you can go from 1 catering a month to 2 caterings a month, or 2 caterings a month to 4 caterings a month, you're not soon far off to be able to make the investment to hire that catering coordinator.
That's a great point. When I first opened my restaurant, I was stuck in it. So if I had a good prospect, I would say, come in for lunch and I'll sit down with you for 5 minutes and I'll buy your lunch, right? They're getting the food. I get to schmooze them take 5 minutes out of the shift, give them the information, the spiel. They get to taste how good it is, and obviously it helped close the sale. So there's a lot of creative things you can do before you have to go spend the money.
I mean, they really like your food, otherwise they wouldn't be in your lobby.
Exactly.
I've never been like, you know what? I really hate Taco Bell, so I'm going to go there for lunch today, right? Like, no one has that conversation.
No. So when you look forward in the catering landscape, what trends are you seeing out there? It could be from anything from menu to marketing to AI. What are you seeing as the next thing, or things that you're working on looking at?
Yeah, I look at, there's some cool like futuristic stuff with like AI that we talked, like I just got back from Food on Demand. We talked about it there. There's some really cool things there. Like I don't think we're very far off from ordering catering or ordering food in video gameplay. I mean, Chipotle's done it in years past, but then also AI. I think we're going to have true AI virtual assistants that, people are already using Chat GPT, Siri, others, right? I don't think we're far off from, I just activated my Siri when I said that. We're not far off from, say, using ChatGPT to say, hey, I need to book a catering from Costa Vida for 25 people with pork and chicken, and throwing that into ChatGPT and ChatGPT doing the rest of it for us. I don't think when I say I don't think we're far off, I think that happens in the next 5 years.
Yeah, probably quicker. Everything that comes across my desk every day, it's crazy.
Yeah. But then also in the trends, we're seeing it significantly here in Utah. Why is catering blowing up? Is because the return to work, the remote work is if you're still a remote work company and you're still working for a company that allows you to work remotely, cherish it. Because I'm seeing it every day here in Utah, and I've seen it in several other states, where now it's the return to work, and companies are wanting their people to come back into the office. And so they're incentivizing their people by saying, hey, come back into the office and we'll buy you lunch,
Right.
5 days a week. And so there's the cool futuristic tech trends, but then there's also the trends of you better have a strategy now if you're a restaurant company, because catering's already here. It's already booming and people are already talking about it like crazy. And so, hop on the trend now to start being able to capitalize on that business, because it's only going to continue to grow, knock on wood, unless we have another pandemic of some sort, which I hope and pray we don't. But it's happening. So there's two different trends. There's the trend of, coming back to the work and working in office, and then the tech trend of Chat GPT and all that. Those are like the two ones that I see very much happening right now.
That's a good call. And what's interesting is I don't know that if you're going to be in the restaurant business, unless you're in a specific niche, I think catering is going to be a have to have, not it'd be nice for us to do catering. I think it's just part of your overall sales, marketing strategy, profit strategy. And if you're not, you're really missing a lot of good opportunity.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
This has been a phenomenal interview. I appreciate all the input, knowledge. And with that, I'm going to sign us out.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Restaurant Catering Smarts. For more insights and episodes, make sure to follow along, subscribe, and share at caterzen.com.